The Houston Astros are coming off a wild series win over the Angels. The Bats came alive, but the injury bug is biting again. We'll cover that and a lot more. It's episode 32 of Stone Cold Stros, and it starts right now. All right, everybody, welcome in. I am Josh Jordan, the editor of SportsMapHouston.com, and I am joined by senior content creator Charlie Palillo. You can catch Charlie at Palillo on Twitter. You can catch me at JoshJordan975. Charlie, big series win. What'd you think?
Well, for entertainment value, pretty tough to top that. In brief, in homage to the absent Brandon Strange, he's either turking or cakeoing, right? Episode 32. Most fans who go to Minute Maid Park, if they look up at all the Astros retired numbers, it's the one that most people likely don't recognize. 32, a relief pitcher named Jim Umbright, who was an original Colt 45, pitched the first two seasons, pitched very well. The second of those two seasons, he pitched after melanoma surgery. It was discovered in his leg, spring training, 1963. Comes back after a month of it, pitches the season, a lot of pain and all that. Very last game of the season, Jim Umbright, the winning pitcher in relief, barely 6 months later, he died of cancer. The first retired number in Colt 45's Astros history, Jim Umbright, number 32.
Well, thanks, Charlie. I did not know that. All right, guys, let's get into this a little bit. Big series win. Saturday was just terrible for the Astros. They scored all those runs, and they still coughed up the game. Ryan Presley, he had some issues. So how big was it, Charlie, that the Astros were able to come back on Sunday and still get that series win after that just heartbreaking loss on Saturday?
Yeah, tough to have much more yin and yang in terms of the extremes. And the latest reminder that momentum, very overrated word in sports, you have it until you suddenly don't. Right, the Astros in complete command of that game Saturday night, had all the momentum, and then wait, what happened? So off that, the Angels, they can take the series, get within 4 in the wild card race. They have the game under control, and wait, what happened? So another meatloaf series for the Astros, 2 out of 3, ain't bad. Feel like you could have swept with a break here, a break there. Well, they could have gotten swept with another break here, another break there. So you move on, and this week ahead of the Astros and Rangers at Minute Maid Park early next week, the Astros could not ask, well, they could very slightly ask for a better schedule cut to try to gain ground on the Rangers after dropping a game over the weekend to be 3 back. 2 at Colorado. Can always be a little tricky playing up in the thin air where the Rockies are at least semi-competent, but the Rockies are a bad team. Then it's 4 at Oakland. The Astros 6-0 against the Athletics this season. Meanwhile, the Rangers, albeit at home, 3 with the Rays, 3 with the Dodgers. So it's several opportunities perhaps for the Astros to carpe diems, plural, and then see if they can maybe overtake the Rangers when the Arlingtonians are here next week.
Well, with that in mind, the offense is really starting to pop here. We've been tracking them, doing the podcast throughout the year, and OPS, team OPS, they've been in the 20s down to the teens. Now they're down to 13. They're getting close to the top 10 in team OPS, so they're starting to hit better. Now they've fallen off a little bit with pitching. They were top ERA in the league for much of the season. I believe they're down to 5th now. Not bad, but it's getting a little bit worse as the batting's getting better. But let's talk about why the hitting has gotten better. And you still got Jordan. He's yet to make an appearance, a rehab start yet. He's still dealing with a head cold, we're hearing. But Kyle Tucker, Chas McCormick, and now Alex Bregman, both Tucker and Bregman going 4 for 5. What do those guys mean to this offense here going forward?
Well, Kyle Tucker's been going crazy over a month now. He and Chas McCormick are the guys playing at a superstar level recently. Alex Bregman, frankly, I need to see more. Obviously, a phenomenally clutch home run on Sunday, part of a 4-hit game against not exactly gangbusters Angels pitching staff. But before that game Sunday, Bregman was 7 for 46. And he went 7 for 46 immediately off of his last 3-hit game when he hit the grand slam off the outfielder to cap the 14-0 win in St. Louis. Alex Bregman's a mediocre player this season until he sustainably over an extended basis proves otherwise. But the depth of the lineup, the Jordan stuff's a real bummer because with him being set back, unless, 2 days as a space cowboy or hook, wherever they send him, 2 days, I'm good. I really thought it set up well for him to be back by the Rangers series. But now he's not going to start a rehab assignment until Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. How quick will the turnaround be? They don't want to push it coming off the oblique. Whereas it seems as though Altuve should be back by that Rangers series, knock on wood. So the Astros lineup, how do you optimize going forward if they're healthy and all hands on deck? I presume Dusty's going to remain beholden to Bregman's experience. So if you go Altuve, Bregman, Jordan, Tuck, Abreu, McCormick, 3 spots left. Well, is it a trade acquisition, left-handed hitting outfielder? Otherwise, Julks Myers for that 3rd spot. Pena presumably over Dubon at short. I know you could start to mount an argument the other way on that. And if Dusty will freaking wake up when he has the A-team back, Yainer Diaz should be catching the majority of the games, and the Astros could have some real potency 1 through 9.
100%. I'd like to highlight Chaz. I kind of hesitate to do it because we've been doing it so much lately, but the guy deserves it. Just some of his stats right here. OPS 887. He's only behind Jordan on the team. I know he hasn't played a full sample size. He's played about a third of a season so far by the numbers. Slugging 522, only behind Jordan. So he's even slugging better than Kyle Tucker right now. And the splits are the thing that we always talk about with him, right, Charlie? But his OPS versus right-hand pitching, 840 and over 1,000 versus right-handed pitching. So Chaz is doing it. It's not just a platoon thing anymore. Is it asking too much to think that he can keep this up?
Oh, at this level, sure. But that he should be in the lineup virtually every day until he really cools off seems pretty obvious. I don't know what the deep analytics data indicate at this point, but that Jake Myers is a clearly superior defensive center fielder over Chaz, I really don't buy that. But if Myers is going to play rather than Julks until you have another alternative, so McCormick plays left, that's fine there. But what has really jumped off the page, and I know the Astros hit some home runs in Anaheim that wouldn't have left any other ballpark or only a couple of others in Major League Baseball. Well, you play the course, right? It's like when guys pop flies into the Crawford boxes at Minute Maid Park. The visiting team has the same opportunity. But McCormick's opposite field power, one longer than the other, the two that he drove out to right center field. In the era of less juiced players and less juiced baseballs, you don't really see as many lengthy opposite field home runs other than by the real behemoths of the game. McCormick's power can play anywhere, and good for him, a guy late getting his big league career started, right? He's 28 years old now. If there was any remnant of possibility that Chaz would get dangled as part of a trade offer to reel in a bigger fish, I think that's been pretty much snuffed. And I've probably said a time or two here before, I'm all for a guy named Chaz.
Why not? Well, it wasn't all good news with this series, right, Charlie? Fromber, we're not really sure, but we think it's some kind of calf. They're hoping it's a cramp, something like that. It sounds like something similar for Jeremy Pena. How much are you worried about these injuries?
Well, the Fromber one, that's a five ring alarm right there. If you're an Astros fan, cross your fingers really, really hard that it was just a cramp, because if there's a calf tweak in there, that's something that can linger, can easily become a month to 6 week injury, and the Astros starting rotation just cannot handle that. That Javier went 5 innings Sunday and only gave up 3 runs. That's not exactly a quality outing, a 5.40 ERA for one outing. But since it wasn't a complete disaster like 4 of his 5 prior starts, but it doesn't mean that Christian Javier is back. Hunter Brown makes the start Tuesday in Colorado. Right? He was leaking badly over his last 5 starts before the break. And then you have JP France. And then between Blanco, forget Sean Dubin, Urquidy maybe within 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Starting pitching absolutely has to be the number one priority. And with the growing concern that too many of their relief pitchers are logging too many outings, it is funny, Josh, the era in which we play, not one of those guys is on pace for more than 80 innings. The Raleigh Fingerses and Sparky Lyles and Dan Quisenberries of bygone eras who would work 120, 130 innings in relief in a single season. Pitch 3 days in a row, no problem whatsoever. Now a guy goes 3 days in a row. Do we nominate him for the Purple Heart? But it's how they're groomed. It's how they're used. So, I think Dana Brown, certainly that left-handed bat to balance out and give them a bat off the bench as a possibility also would be a nice acquisition. But pitching has to be, if not the entire thrust right now. Starting foremost, I would go for, but another live bullpen arm or two, so Rafael Montero can be quietly put to sleep for the season.
That's the concern, right? Is, Presley leaking oil and Montero went out and did Montero things again. My concern is they just got back from the All-Star break and these guys already look exhausted again. Am I wrong? That's a bit of a concern.
Presley, I'm going to say, it just turns out, hey, the Russians cut Rocky IV. I mean, Presley had been literally perfect over 11 outings. So that he gave it up. The best of closers, every once in a while, they're going to get got. Abreu, Neris were so good early. Was there likely to be some fall off? Abreu working the most appearances so far out of the bullpen, already within 10 of the career high total that he had last year, though the innings aren't wildly out of control. Maton was so awesome for so long. Was able to get through with the save. Thank you, Kyle Tucker, on Sunday. But there's just a lot of shakiness, right? Ryan Stanek's career year obviously was last year. He hasn't been close to that in effectiveness this year. So one more arm, whether it's in a blowout game. So, there were times where Maton's in the fourth or fifth inning. We'd like to avoid that. Seth Martinez is just a guy. Dubin does not belong on a major league pitching staff. But I really think that one more starting pitcher should be the number one target. But the question that we've had for weeks and weeks and weeks, do the Astros have the goods, since their farm system is inferior to numerous contenders who also figure to be in the market for starting pitching?
All right, guys. Well, that's it for part one of Stone Cold Stros. The audio podcast is up wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to check out the rest of the videos on YouTube. And until next time, go Stros.